What is up, YouTube? Welcome back to another Creating Cards series. And today we've got three different players that we're looking at, and we know that all three are going to be in the 2017 game. First off, it's going to be Jason Giambi, who we saw in the trailer, as well as Roberto Alomar, also in the trailer, and Griffey Senior, who's been confirmed to be in the game by Ramon Russell on Twitter. So we've got three players. They've each got a couple cards. As always, I'm just going to edit this one card here multiple times. So we're going to start with Giambi here, and he's going to have an A's and Yankees, but I'm not going to create a whole new other Yankees card. So we'll just start here with the Oakland one, and then we'll adjust it as we see fit for the New York one. So hope that's okay with y'all. But I do like kind of using these old or these put-up rosters that do have at least kind of a player type. So, you know, that's a pretty good representation of Giambi there. So good on whoever made this. And originally, what I did was I created single season cards for Giambi and Alomar, but then I went back to the way they currently do Legends, which is with their entire career with that team. So I know it's not universal one way or the other. For example, with Griffey, they're going to have individual seasons because they're doing multiple cards. So they're going to have a prime Seattle, the rookie is in Seattle, and then they're going to have a Cincinnati, which for me, I did a singular season. They could end up doing the entire time with Cincinnati. So I don't know. They could have some cards that are individual seasons this year for guys who are legends, which, by the way, if you're not currently playing baseball, you're a legend card as opposed to a flashback card, which is players currently playing. That's why flashbacks usually have individual seasons. Legends have their cluster, their career with that team. But it gets a little murky because, of course, Griffey is going to be a legend and he's going to have individual seasons. So my suggestion personally is that they do something called throwback cards, where they actually take these players who would be normally quote-unquote legends and do their best season. Not maybe so much for like Giambi, because I think both would be 99, his best year with the Yankees and A's. And do we really need two 99 Giambis? But, you know, maybe guys who were you know, only had 2 or 3 really good seasons, and then they were kind of average beyond that. You know, the one that always jumps out front of mind for someone of my age is Brady Anderson hitting 50 homers with the Baltimore Orioles. He never really did anything like that again, and so that could be an interesting card. But Giambi had so many great seasons that just making individual 99s, I don't know. I'm a little torn on it, but either way, what I'm doing is I'm adhering to the normal legend rules, which is using their entire career with a club. So let's go ahead and get started. First off, it's contact versus left. It's going to be at 88. And I'm going to give you some numbers after I do these. Don't worry. I got receipts. And then his power versus left is going to be at an 82. And now his contact versus right, going to be all the way up at 92. And his power versus right is going to be 94. That's a hell of a card, by the way. That's a lefty who you don't have to platoon. And it's always nice to not have to platoon a first baseman because, you know, carrying a bench first baseman, there's not a lot of flexibility there. You know, you're only using him as the platoon option. He's not really coming in late in games, maneuvering around the infield and all that sort of stuff. So that can be a little bit annoying to have a platoon first baseman. Let me give you some numbers. Versus righties, Giambi with Oakland had a 316 average, 575 slug, which is good for a 259 ISO, which is very good. 30 homers per 600 plate appearances. 1 stolen base per 600 plate appearances. Not that I really need to get into his stolen base numbers. You'll see the speed is obviously quite low. 14% strikeout rate, which is very good for a slugger, and a 15% walk rate, which is fantastic as well. So let me get you some lefty numbers, and then I'll do the vision and discipline. 290 average, 475 slug, 184 ISO, 21 homers per 600 plate appearances, 2 stolen bases, who cares? 17% strikeout rate and 12% walk rate. So he was worse against lefties, but you would expect that because lefty-lefty is so difficult, and yet he was still well above average for lefty-lefty, and that's why I still gave him an 88-82 against left-handers. For the vision, I went with a 72. Plate vision 72 based on that strikeout rate. You know, that's a pretty good strikeout rate that he had there. We weren't quite in the era of super strikeouts though, so I couldn't go too high with it. but I do think it gives him a good enough PCI to where you're going to be able to really crush bombs with him. And then his plate discipline, 97. The dude takes mad walks. He was very patient. He owned the zone, and that's what allowed him to be so devastating. He had a 1,004 batting average with runners in scoring position with Oakland. 1,004. Now, your batting average, or excuse me, your OPS, I might have said batting average, I meant 1,004 OPS with runners in scoring position. Your numbers with the runners in scoring position, they go up, right? Because the pitcher has runners on. They're usually pitching from the stretch, which lessens their numbers. They have to be more fine, and so they can give you better pitches in the zone. So you can't just compare it to their OPS without runners in scoring position and say, oh, well, it's markedly better. You also have to account a little bit for the fact that pitchers get worse. Yet, even with those, got the 99 clutch, which is what runners in scoring position average dictates. His durability with them was a 92. He played 150 games this season outside of his rookie year, which you don't really count because I think he played like 50 games, but that depends on when he got called up. So looking at his full seasons, he averaged 150 games per, which is fantastic. Speed, I went 30. Whoops, I'm going way too far here. Let me see, what did I do for bunting? I didn't do anything, so I'll go 15-15. I really don't know. I punted because I don't care, right? It doesn't matter. I can do 99, I can do 15. I don't think it's going to impact the overall, so I didn't really give it much mind for somebody like Giambi, who's a power hitter. For his arm strength, I punted a little bit here on first base defense back in the day. Like, it's not that far back in the day, but it's far enough back that I don't have a great feel. So I will defer to Sony San Diego Studios on this one. Or if somebody in the comments knows some things and says, listen, no, Giambi was a fantastic defensive first baseman. I kind of take a look at the defensive metrics insofar as they exist for guys back in the early 2000s, and I kind of give an eyeball. And he was about an average guy, so that's what he's getting. His steal is a 5. Who cares? Right? You know, that's not what we've gotten him, what we're getting him for. And his aggressiveness, I gave it a 0. I don't know if they give guys zeros, so I'm amending that on the fly, and I'm just going with a 20. Again, this is not the linchpin of this card. In fact, I bet if I left it at a 0, it wouldn't impact the overall one bit. But let's take a look at what we got. We might have a diamond card here. And we do, a 96. And he was a beast, so I've got 0 issues with this. He should be a diamond card, and a good diamond at that. I've got no issues. I think this would be an amazing card to have. Again, you don't have to platoon him, and as long as you can hit lefty-lefty, which I don't really have too much trouble with, then this is somebody that you get to leave in the lineup permanently, and that's awesome. Now let's adjust a little bit for his Yankees card. Now we're doing Yankees. Again, Yankees Giambi. I'm not going over to the Yankees team. It's just too much work, and so we're just going to edit this card. Now, it's markedly different, okay? So let's start with the contact. Versus righties, it goes down to 69. Nice. And then versus lefties, it goes all the way down to 44. Again, I'll give you the numbers in a moment. The power, 68 versus righties. Wait, that's versus lefties, excuse me. 84 versus righties. I was like, wait, that's weird. What did I say? 68. So he's 69, 84 against righties, 44, 68 against lefties. Let me do the vision and discipline right now, and then I'll give you all the digits. 51, and then the discipline actually goes up to 99. Average 543 slug, 275 ISO, 36 homers per 600 plate appearances. Don't worry about stolen bases. Who cares? It's 2-1 again. 18% strikeout rate, 18% walk rate. That's versus righties with an OPS of 954. Fantastic. He decimated righties. Now against lefties, only hit 242 with a 468 slug, good for a 226 ISO. So he still had power, and I think I show that with the 68. But keep in mind, there's a high power era. So even, a 226 ISO these days is extraordinary, even with last year's power surge. But back in the day, everyone was popping around upper 100s, low 200s. So 226 is not overwhelming. That's why I think I mitigated it nicely with a 68. He had 29 homers per 600 plate appearances against lefties, which is good. So He did also have a 23% strikeout rate, though. So that's why the contact is so low. As I'm looking at it, I am thinking maybe the power should be a few ticks higher, maybe a 72, because 468 and 226 are still pretty good. I like to trust myself, though, on what I did and not reverse it, because I don't show all my work on my Excel. I do a lot of this and I put in the pertinent details, and I'm like, you came to 68 for a reason. So I'm gonna split the difference. I feel like maybe 72 is where I should go, but I don't want to completely take away from my work. So I'll bump it to 70. So I'm bumping it a little bit. Probably not enough to make a huge difference, but I look at that 29 homers per 600 plate appearances against lefties, and I'm like, that's pretty darn good. Maybe I shouldn't have sold him so low. So we'll go 70. 955 OPS with runners in scoring position, which is fantastic. Only costs him a few points of clutch. Durability goes way down, though. He only played 128 games per season with the Yankees. Not good. I left his speed and fielding the same. I moved his fielding up just a little, up to 50. His defensive metrics got a little bit better, but all that other stuff stays the same. And again, if we got some disputes on it, that's fine. I will trust what Sony San Diego comes up with for it. I'm not going to get too bent on a first baseman's defense when he was not a great defender by any stretch of the imagination. Let's see what we got here. It's going to be worse, obviously, but how much? It is a 79. So he's a 79 with the Yankees. He goes down quite a bit, and a lot of it is that versus lefty work. I'm thinking that might be too low, folks. I'm torn, though, because I think he has to take his hit against lefties, and so I'm looking just at the whole numbers. He went from Oakland hitting 300 down to 260 with New York, and so that's reflected in the contact. The power is where I might be underselling it, so I might even go further than the 70 against lefties, because he went from 531 slug with Oakland to 521 with New York. So 10 points of slugging difference. So you know what? I'm going to make some edits here on the fly, guys. I do think I sold it a little bit short. I'm actually going to go 74.88. Okay? I'm bumping both. I think I was a little too harsh. And now we're dealing with still not an amazing card, but I think it gets better, more to the point of who he is. He's an 81 at this point. I'm not super confident in this. I might be selling him still too short. I'm not going to adjust it anymore. We're going to leave it at this, an 81. But I might be selling him a little bit short, and I understand that. So, but those are numbers I came up with. A lot of it is that 242 average and 23% strikeout rate against lefties. He deserves a low mark. So, what if I do this? And this is not the official. I'm just looking just to say, what if I do this? What if I go 83, 90? Then what are we? Then he's an 83. So the fact of it is it's not really the power that's driving him down. It's the other factors right now. Is it that durability? Does that durability really hurt? I mean, it's accurate. Played 128 games a season. What more can you say on that? What if he's a 80 durability? Does that change much? Nope. Okay, so it's not the durability. I didn't think it was. I don't know why I thought maybe it was the durability. But hey, fact is, y'all, he just he got worse, and I think it's this contact here that's really impacting him. And I had to be honest about it, though. He struck out more. He made less contact, and it really hurt him. Even if it was a 54, I bet that has an impact. 82. So that alone moved him up 1 point. But we're going with 44. All right, I'm not going to dwell on this. I trust my work. I bumped up the power a little bit. I think I was selling him a little bit short, so we'll go 88.74. This will be the official. And we're going 81 for New York Yankees, Jason Giambi. 96 for the for the Oakland version. I'm writing these down so I have them for the future because I don't save this roster, and so sometimes if all I have is the video to go back on, and I like to have it in my little sheet here. All right, let's move on. Let's move on. You guys are probably like, enough with Giambino, dude. We got it. All right, next up is R.Alomar. I've actually got 3 cards for Roberto. Did I already pass Toronto? Yeah, I sure did. Where'd you go? Oh, he's a 40 right now. Whoa. I'm just kidding. I just moved them all down, so there's a little suspense when we do this. All right, so he played with the Blue Jays from 91 to 95, the Orioles from 96 to 98, and the Cleveland Indians from 99 to 2001. And we're going to make a card for all 3. Let's start with the Jays, and we're going to go, let's come out the gates. Fire it. 99 contact. Wait, that's versus righties. Damn it, Paul. It's actually 48 versus lefties. But 99 contact versus righties. Firing out the gate. Boom. Love that, huh? 66 power versus righties. Not bad. Not bad. And 60 versus lefties. So decent pop. But notice that 48 contact versus lefties. That's not great. And let me give you his plate vision. It's going to be a 92. And his discipline is going to be 58. And then I'll get you some numbers here, as I always do. Versus righties, Blue Jays Alomar hit 327 with a 474 slug, a 147 ISO, 9 homers per 600 plate appearances, and 43 stolen bases per 600 plate appearances. We'll get to the speed in a moment. 8% strikeout rate, 11% walk rate. Add it all up, it's an 869 OPS. It's pretty darn good against righties. But against lefties, he hit 256 with a 392 slug, a 136 ISO, 14 homers per 600 plate appearances, which tells you, so the homers are much more, but the ISO is lower. That means the doubles and triples fell off. So he wasn't having the extra base power. He was popping a few more homers, though. 32 stolen bases per 600 plate appearances against lefties, 14% strikeout rate, 8% walk rate. Added up, it's a 712 OPS. So he's not great against lefties. The bunting, I punted again here, but being a middle infielder who can handle the bat, I'm giving him 50s. I'm making distinctions basically based on player type unless they were known for bunting, and I don't recall Alomar being known for bunting, so we're just going to go 50-50 and kind of be done with it. Maybe it's a cop-out, maybe you've got some beef on that. Please let me know in the comments. I'm open to listening to it, but I'm not going to get hung up on the bunting ability of guys that weren't known for bunting. His clutch rating, 63. He had an 821 OPS with them with runners in scoring position with the Jays. And so he had a great durability. We're going all the way up to 89. He played 155 games in full seasons, and then a couple weeks missed in each of the 2 strike seasons, 94 and 95. So that's why I didn't just do a flat games played count, because it's skewed by 94 and 95. But we'll give him an 89. The dude was on the field for them, for the Jays. Now let's get into some of the secondary stuff, which is pretty important for him because this can really send his card northward. 90 rating on speed. Dude was a burner. Arm strength, 85. Arm accuracy, 80. Reaction, 80. Fielding ability, 80. So damn good fielder at second base. I'll get into some information on that in a moment. 95 steal. I'll get into that in a moment as well. And base running aggressiveness, 85. So that's what we've got. Now, this is composite, so it's not just with the Jays, but he had 10 gold gloves. His fielding WAR wasn't always great, but there were scouting reports that suggested that he could have played short or third without any issue. He did have a strong fielding percentage and great range, though, which is a good combo, because I don't like fielding percentage as a standalone. It's actually kind of worthless if you're just looking at it on itself, because if you don't have good range, and you can have a great fielding percentage because you never get to anything. But if you combine great range and good fielding percentage. That means you're getting to more difficult plays and you're turning them. So I will give him credit there. He's got great defense. I mean, he was a good defender. Gold Gloves are also not a great standard to hold a guy and say, oh, he's automatically a good defender. But when you win 10, you don't usually steal 10. You can steal a couple just because the voting was so bad back in the day, but you don't steal 10. He was a noted defender, and so his defense is gonna be awarded here. Now let's see what we've got for an overall. It's a 99. Woo, that surprises me. I didn't think it would get all the way to 99 because of the work against lefties, but that defense and speed, I think, are what take it upward. But I don't really have any disputes with that. It's one of those 99s that doesn't necessarily play 99 because you don't always feel the speed and defense, especially if you don't run. I'm not a runner. I don't run with players. I'm bad at stealing. So even though it'd be a 99 card, it wouldn't necessarily deliver 99-esque value for me personally. But against righties, devastating. I think you got to platoon him against lefties, though. Let's move on to the Baltimore version. This is Baltimore Roberto Alomar now. Contact versus righties goes down to 93. Contact versus lefties goes up to 86, though. By the way, I'm not really altering the defense and speed too much. And the offense gets better. So as I'm thinking it out here, we might have 399s. And I don't know that they're going to make 399 Roberto Alomars. But we're going to go through. I did the work. We got to see what we've got here. His power versus righties is going to be 71. Power versus lefties up to 73. So look, he gets markedly better against lefties with Baltimore. And again, the defense and speed doesn't really go down too much. And so we're going to have another fantastic card. Plate vision of 88. Excuse me. Plate discipline up to 63. His clutch goes down to 48. He only had an 803 OPS with runners in scoring position. That's just not that great. All right, numbers. 319 average, 483 slug, 164 ISO with 16 homers and 16 stolen bases per 600 plate appearances against righties. 8% strikeout rate, which is amazing. 10% walk rate. More walks than strikeouts. That's brilliant. 863 OPS is the bottom line. Against lefties, 297 average, 472 slug, 176 ISO, 18 homers, 10 stolen bases per 600 plate appearances, 13% strikeout rate, so it struck out a little bit more, but still a good rate, and an 11% walk rate, added up, 832 OPS. So his OPS was worse with runners in scoring position than it was versus righties or lefties, hence the bad clutch grade. His durability does actually go down, though. He struggled to stay on the field as often, 137 games per season with Baltimore. Speed actually does get altered here because there were some differences in his speed component. So maybe it isn't going to be a flat 99. We'll see. Wait, arm accuracy is not supposed to change. What did I do? 80. Speed goes down to 70, but the stealing goes down to 69. And the aggressiveness goes up to 90. So let me see. I think I've got some numbers here. With Baltimore, and quickly for Toronto, just for if you're curious about the steal numbers, he had a 79% success rate with 55 stolen bases. He was an elite base stealer with them. With the Orioles, 74% success rate, 65% extra base taken rate, 17 stolen bases. Actually, I'm realizing that that's based on one season, by the way, because originally I made individual season cards, as I mentioned out front. But looking at the composite numbers, which I don't have pulled up, is where I came up with lowering the speed and the steal numbers so drastically. But he continued to take extra bases. So his speed probably doesn't need to go down all the way to 70. I would say 75. He just wasn't stealing nearly as much. This is probably a 99, though. Yep. Another 99. So we've got two 99s, and spoiler alert, it's not going to be anything less than a 99 with Cleveland. I'd just be really surprised because he dominated offensively with them, and his durability goes up, his speed goes back up. This is an easy 99. Let me give you some numbers first, though. 96, 93. This is devastating. Power versus right goes up to 77. Power versus left goes down to 72, but who cares? Plate vision is down to 69. Starting to strike out a little bit more, but when you're doing all the other damage, it doesn't really matter. Plate discipline, oh, excuse me, plate vision, no, it was 79. I was looking at the plate discipline, went up to 69, so I was off there, pardon me. Clutch actually goes up to 88. He started hitting with runners in scoring position. He had 951 OPS, which is beastly. 98 durability. He played 157 games a season with them. He was awesome. Speed back up to 83. Left the defense alone. Stealing back up to 90. Base running aggressiveness down to 82. Quick numbers because they're obscene. Against righties, 327 average, 522 slug, 195 ISO, that's amazing. 18 homers, 32 stolen bases per 600. 11% strikeout rate, 13% walk rate, 923 OPS. Against lefties, 311 average, 498 slug, 185 187 ISO, 19 homers, 27 stolen bases, 16% strikeout rate, 9% walk rate, 867 OPS. So struggled a little bit in comparison to versus righties, but he was still dominating. I mean, he was amazing with Cleveland. Duh, it's a 99. So again, I made these 3 cards because those are the 3 big time periods that he played, but I don't think he's going to get 399 cards. What's the point, right? So maybe there's a Toronto one, and you know what? One that I didn't make that maybe he does get one for, just so that it's a lesser card that they can kind of have you kind of work and build up with, is San Diego. He did play 3 seasons there, and I don't have all the verse right, verse lefty numbers because I'm just looking at Baseball Reference right now. But he averaged 7 homers, 30 stolen bases, 283 average, 718 OPS. So it would probably be a silver card, and then you kind of maybe evolve that into Toronto. So maybe he only gets 2 cards. Maybe it's San Diego and Toronto. But either way, I think there's a prime version out there that's going to be a 99 for Roberto Alomar. All right, then the next one, and our last one for today on the Creating Cards series is, wait, what? I'm going the wrong way. Is Ken Griffey Senior. Where are you? Oh, there you are. He's a top 50 prospect, apparently. All right, so I've got 2 cards for him. I've got one with the Reds, one with the Yankees. Now, he played with the Reds from 73 to 81. And his contact versus lefty will be 77. Contact versus righty, all the way up to 83. Now, he wasn't much of a power guy, so his power versus righty is only 53. Power versus lefty, 40. Again, don't know on the bunting, so we'll go 50-50. I really don't know about old school. I didn't see Ken Griffey Senior play much outside of that little stint with Seattle, and I certainly wasn't an analytical watcher of baseball at that age. His plate vision, 55. Plate discipline, 69. Nice. All right, numbers. Versus righties with the Reds, 310 average, 449 slug, 139 ISO, 10 homers, 25 stolen bases per 600, 10% strikeout rate, 10% walk rate. That's very good. 827 OPS. Against lefties, 301 average, 411 slug, 110 ISO, 5 homers, 10 stolen bases, 14% strikeout rate, 8% walk rate, 764 ISO. Or ISO, that'd be amazing. 764 OPS, excuse me. And then his runners in scoring position was 845, so he gets a 65 clutch. Solid, not amazing. Durability is a 69, nice. He played 130 games a season, so not great, but not awful. Let's move on to his speed. Speed was a 75. He could hack all 3 outfield positions. Arm strength, 73. Arm accuracy, also a 73. I'm really taking my best guess on the defense for somebody way back in the day, though. He didn't have great metrics, but the metrics for that time also aren't great, especially, when we retroactively apply some of the metrics we have today to the past. They're hard to take too seriously, so I just kind of looked at some, read some stuff on him, watched some videos, checked out the assists. I just don't think we have a whole lot to go on, so I'm making him a solid, if unspectacular, fielder. He only gets a 65 because he just did not have great numbers, but he did have a solid arm. And then stealing, 73. Aggressiveness, 70. All right, so what do we got here? Reds Griffey is an 80. This is not amazing, right? I mean, that's all right. Doesn't have to be. That's what I've got. What I could see happening, just to kind of give you guys an idea, is I could see the defense being pumped up a little bit, making him a gold. I could see it. I don't know for sure, but I could definitely see it. And he does have first base eligibility, but I think that first base eligibility should actually be with his Yankees card and not with his Reds card. But that's splitting hairs. I'm not too concerned on that. So I had some defensive notes. He had mediocre to bad defensive WAR. He had the 30th most assists out of 89 outfielders with a minimum of 5,000 plate appearances. And then his speed, 20 stolen bases per 600 plate appearances with a 76% success rate. So that's why I gave him the numbers that I did with the defense and speed. And so I don't think they can gas his defense too high. So I don't even think, you know what, I'm going to retract what I said about the gold. You can't get 5 more points out of there unless you're just going to completely inflate his defense to a level that the numbers don't really support. I did just get done saying that the numbers aren't super trustworthy, but he was on the low end. Like, at some point, they don't completely miss. They don't take a great defender and put him on the medium to bad end, depending on the season. And you're like, oh, well, they completely missed on him over the course of 12 years. Or, 8 years. I guess it would be 9. But, he played a long time with the Reds and did not fare very well on the defensive metrics. So that's where I'm at. I'm giving him an 80. I'm sticking with it. Now, he played with the Yankees from 82 to 86. His contact versus lefties goes down to 51. Contact versus righties is 75. Power versus righties is 59. But the power versus lefties goes down to 31. Plate vision up to 62. Plate discipline goes down to 46. So interesting, like 2 vastly different players here, right? Clutch actually goes down to 44. He only had a 711 OPS with runners in scoring position. Let me give you the rest of his numbers here. Let me do this first. 65 because he played 126 games per season. So now to the numbers. Versus righties, 298 average, 451 slug, 154 ISO, 16 homers, 11 stolen bases per 600 plate appearances, 10% 10% strikeout rate, 8% walk rate, 800 OPS. Not bad, and that's why he gets 75-59. That's pretty solid. Against lefties, 266 average, 384 slug, 118 ISO, 11 homers, 5 stolen bases, 11% strikeout rate, 5% walk rate, 682 OPS. Flat out bad. So this is like a platoon bench guy in BR, at this point. It's not amazing. So, but it's accurate. It's where we're at. In fact, the defense actually gets a little bit worse here. So I moved the arm strength down to 60. I moved the arm accuracy down to 55. Reaction down to 50. That's why I had to move to first base, right? And then the fielding itself is just a 53. His stealing goes all the way down to 45. Aggressiveness goes down to 40. His speed is a 48. Yeesh. Maybe they don't make this card because it's not good. So again, he had mediocre to bad defensive WAR. He did play some first base. He was 51st out of 65 in outfield assists with a minimum of 3,000 innings played. He only stole 8 bases per 600 plate appearances with a 63% success rate. So again, I'm making this card because it was another significant chunk of his career, but I'm not sure that it needs to be made because it is a 65. And do we really need a 65 Ken Griffey Senior? I don't think so. So maybe they only make the Reds one, or maybe they also make a special one from his Seattle time, because he did spike with Seattle, and he only played 188 plate appearances, so you'd be going off of a small sample. But maybe it's a fun little card that they make just because he got to play with his son. It was a really cool thing for baseball. He's 40, 41 out there playing with his kid. That's pretty great. So maybe they go that route. But this Yankees Griffey Senior doesn't need to be made. The Cincinnati one though is solid. It's a solid 80, and that totally works. So that's it for the creating cards series today. Those 3 guys are all confirmed to be in the game. I am going to make a few more. Especially, I'm going to make ones that are going to be relevant once we start getting the vlogs. If they're making ones if they're showing us players that are going to be in the game, I'm going to make versions for sure. But I'm also going to make some where I'm kind of guessing at players I would like to see in. So look for more creating card series coming very soon. Thanks for watching, and please subscribe.